Let's play a little more with how the mean absolute error and the root mean square error act. Suppose we had this tiny little data set of errors just to make make things pretty easier to think about than if we had a huge data set. What would you guess would be the mean absolute error of these four things? And what would you guess would be the root mean squared error? So let's put some formulas here. So let's do the average absolute error. And what do you think that's going to be? Let's hit enter here, or control shift enter, and we get 100, because if you take absolute error, absolute value of each of these, you get 100. Take the average of 100 4 times, you get 100. How about the root mean squared error? Let's do square root average, and then these squared. What do you think that's going to be? We'll hold control shift and do enter. And we get 100, because if you square each of these, you get 100 squared 4 times, because the minus sign disappears. The average of 100 squared 4 times is 100 squared. Take the square root, you get 100. Not a big surprise. So in very simple cases, the mean absolute error and the root mean squared error can be the same thing. But what if we replace, let's say, this 100 with a 200, and this negative 100 with a negative 200? So I'm going to go ahead and do that, but think what we're going to get for the mean absolute error and the root mean squared error. So I replaced them, and does the mean absolute error surprise you that 150 is the mean absolute error now? Probably not too surprising. Let's look at the root mean squared error though. It's a little bit bigger than 150, isn't it? Why is that? Well, the 200, when you square it, it becomes 40,000, or negative 200 squared is 40,000. The 100 squared is only 10,000, so the larger errors get much larger when you square them, assuming they're over 1.0, and so they kind of end up with more weight in the final average. So can we say that the mean absolute error kind of pays less attention to the large numbers than the root mean squared error does? Sometimes we'd say that the mean absolute error is less sensitive to outliers than the RMSE, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes we want to not pay too much attention to outliers, but there are times when outliers have a real physical effect on our system. Like if you have an outlier of being too low on blood sugar, that could be fatal. Or if you have an outlier of being too close to the car in front of you, that could also be fatal. Maybe we really do want to give more weight to things that are much farther outside what we hope the operating conditions are. So in those cases, root mean squared error can make a lot of sense. So we can say that root mean squared error gives more weight to values farther, to the more extreme values. Sometimes that's what we want.